Welcome to the Thread Insights weekly group call. It's been a while since we've had one of these. So we've got some stuff on the agenda. Jumping in, Savash shared a demo. He's been working on the pipeline conversion to GraphQL. So this is kind of a behind the scenes demo. This is happening in two parts. So Savash is working on the vulnerability report and Dave Pizek's been working on the modal. So this is an update on the progress on the vulnerability report for the pipeline security tab. And Savash had to go take his daughter to dinner, so he wasn't going to make it today. She was on our one-on-one just now. It was really fun. She's very cute. All right, we've got two issues for planning breakdown. So the first one is around Jira messaging. So Jira issue creation messaging. When the issue is closed for a GitLab issue, we display a closed indicator on the vulnerability report. That equivalent behavior should happen for the Jira issues. And my question was, and I wasn't sure if anyone had a chance to look at this yet in advance, is there backend work required for this, or is this a piece of information we're already getting back on the status of the Jira issues? So we can handle this async. If one of the two of you backend engineers would care to answer this question, this would be the only thing we need to know about getting this one broken down for planning. Do we need to pull someone from the backend team or not?
I think we need backend. Sorry, Jonathan is here.
I've started talking with my mute button on, so Subhashish actually has a priority there since I don't know how to work.
No, you can.
No. I think we both. I put on there. I'm fairly certain that we need backend work because the only status that we have in the external link is created.
Okay.
We don't have. It doesn't look like we have the additional statuses for the other states. And I just saw that. I hadn't looked at Subhash's comment yet.
Yes, I think we need. I agree with Jonathan. I think we need backend work for this one, and I saw another bug for deleted Jira issue as well. It's kind of the similar one because like there is no communication with Jira if anything happens on the Jira side. Okay. So we don't know whether the Jira issue is deleted or somebody closed that issue. So that mechanism, I don't think it's present right now.
So those two issues might be related. And to summarize the bug you were referring to, Subhashish, what we've realized is that when you create a Jira issue off a vulnerability and then delete the Jira issue in Jira, we're still holding on to that related issue link. So you're not allowed to create a second issue once the Jira issue is created. Thanks for sharing that in the chat. So we'll make sure that those get related as we're refining those issues.
At the risk of taking this off the rails a little bit, so I did not see specifically, but I'm assuming that we can track the state of the Jira issues.
Okay.
I'm assuming that we can, but I did not explicitly see that anywhere else in the code. I know that we can link to them, but I didn't see that. So I don't know how deep we have to actually push. If it's just a status that is already available to us through the API, awesome. If it's something that if we actually have to create that to go get the status, then that just adds an extra layer. But I wasn't able to see in my looking.
That's fine. That can be part of refinement for sure. Go ahead, Sebastian. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, no. So the refinement Mihao did for this issue, like for the deletion, Jira issue deletion, has the similar kind of findings, like there is no communication from Jira side. Maybe we need to add something, API call or webhook or something like that. And then on our side, for the deletion, I think it's a little bit easier than, we are like just deleting the association and creating it again. But for the closed, I think we really need to know the status from the Jira side. That's my initial findings. So I don't know.
If we do go down, so I can say that, yes, we're not getting that status from the Jira side. So we haven't implemented any sort of webhook or callback. I would almost hesitate for us to go down that path, since that seems like that would be part of the broader Jira GitLab integration that the ecosystem team owns and is working on. So it may be worth checking with them to see if that's something that they're already thinking of doing. And if that's the only way that we could get more of the status, I would almost be inclined to say, let's leave that one for now. I think that's probably too much effort to put into it just for this specific feature right now.
Yeah,
like I'm happy to have it do just sort of like a lazy load, do the call for that specific issue type, see what comes back, and then update the status that way.
Hey Matt, would you mind adding that comment to the issue so it doesn't get lost in the depths of this agenda?
So
I just put a note in here.
Can I just link to this point in the video? It was like 7
That works
minutes.
too. Yeah, no, that's great. However you want to do that. Go ahead, Jonathan.
So you're talking about like when the vulnerability list comes up, like we actually go to that Jira issue and check the status there and respond with that and check where we are like on that, or are you talking about like?
Right. Well, today we display whether there's an issue or not. Right. So when you see the list, the addition would be on that display have an indicator that it's closed. So when we do the retrieval of the Jira, right.
Yeah.
So but what Matt was saying about the lazy loading, like when we pull up the vulnerability list, like it goes out and actually checks the Jira issue to see if it's still there or what.
I think I would be okay to actually do that only once you looked at a vulnerability record or maybe did some additional interaction with it, because I would worry about performance if we're loading 20 and doing 20 API calls, or if we had some sort of
that's what I was thinking. I'm like, I don't know if we want to just like pull like just go ding 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 hit all these Jira issues.
No, I don't think so.
Agree.
So that
Yep.
even if we wanted to do some sort of like, I know we have a lot of scheduled jobs for things like, maybe every few hours or like every 24 hours, we just do kind of a refresh on stuff. I think that would be fine too, to do that kind of an update. But I guess I'm saying with the assumption that this is easier and a better approach than just implementing the webhook callbacks and letting Jira do its thing. That just sounds like that's going to be, more complex, but maybe it's more straightforward and save us a lot on the performance side.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think we need to engage the ecosystem team, like you said, to do that. I mean, pulling all of that information, updating the status of Jira upon loading of the vulnerabilities, that's going to be a big performance hit. So I mean, it feels like there needs to be some kind of service or something running in the background. Like if you load a project, like you just go to the project page, like, pulling something like have a service pulling that, updating in the background, or if there's like a task that runs in the background that does it periodically. I don't know how the best way to do it, but this seems like it would be a very time consuming processor intensive task to update all of the Jira statuses. So.
Yeah, agreed. And we're still in kind of a weird spot since we implemented something that
he got tired of talking about Jira.
Yeah, since we're still the only place I think where we're actually reaching out and creating something inside of Jira as an object and not just pushing something pre-existing. So we're a little bit ahead of other parts. So I think that's why I'm kind of a little bit like I just want to catch up and see what the ecosystem team has right now, because I know there's a lot of renewed focus on building out that specific integration.
Matt, would it make more sense then to not move forward with the planning breakdown or refinement of this issue and just start the conversation with the ecosystem team right now about any solutions or plans? Or do you think that we need to look at what the back end effort would be to retrieve the status? I guess I just had this blissful hope that as we retrieved, a list of issues, that having the status of those issues wouldn't be a separate endpoint call.
Well, that's a good point though, Lindsay. Like, I don't know, Jonathan, maybe since we are integrated at a project level on the Jira side, there is an API call, pretty positive, where you can just say, it'll return an array of every single issue underneath that project.
What details are with that? Yeah, I think we're solutioning, and I think that we should focus on our planning breakdown at this point and make sure we understand the requirements, and then let whoever takes the work for refinement dig into this deeper.
Sure. I do think that we should, on this issue, ping the ecosystem team go ahead and bring them into the conversation on this issue.
Okay.
I don't know. If
I
they
can
have
take
a
the action
team.
to do that. They
don't
do.
know if they have
I
a
know
team.
IP is the front end manager for that. I'm not sure if he's full stack or who the backend manager would be, but he knows us very well, Lucas Eifert. So I can take the action for that.
Okay.
So I think in addition to that, in parallel, we should still get the backend issue created and continue with our planning breakdown and refinement, but also start that discussion. Do you agree?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, for sure.
Okay. All right, thank you. And just to ensure, I think we've already answered all these questions, but just a reminder, our planning breakdown questions, are the requirements clear enough to understand the intent of the request? Does anyone have any questions on the requirements for this one? Dependencies, I think we've talked about that a little bit. There might be a dependency on the ecosystem team, depending on what we find. And then is it small enough to complete in one iteration if we were to set everything else aside?
It depends on what's already there in the ecosystem.
Right, okay.
Agreed.
So that,
Agreed.
okay.
The answer is it depends.
Maybe.
I know managers love that answer.
I'm actually a much bigger fan of that than like, oh no, it's totally fine and not knowing. But based on what Matt's saying is if it does end up being something that's bigger than it would take us to complete in one milestone, there's a question of whether we'd actually go forward and do it. Is that right, Matt?
Yeah,
At least at this
and
time.
I think, well, and I guess also the thing is, let's say that the ecosystem is planning on implementing a generalized way to handle webhook callbacks from the Jira side, and they're going to do this in like 2 milestones. I would rather wait for that group to do that and then leverage, for our purposes, even if it didn't, like, this is not a pressing feature, I guess, like it's a nice enhancement to push forward, but this isn't like we have to have it now.
Right, okay.
I will say real quick, one thing I just thought about, so one of the issues is that we cannot create another issue if we think there's an issue out there, right?
So that is a bug that Sebastian was referring to earlier.
And then we bring that up in the chat. So let me bring that up, and that's
so the issue was like Jira issues got deleted, but we don't know about that. When we are creating on our side another one, it's giving us the uniqueness like that. Duplication.
I do think on that one, if we're trying to create a Jira issue, then we can say, hey, if we find out that there's a second one out there, we do go and check. I think that
make sure it still exists first.
Make sure it still exists, and if it doesn't, then we can create one.
Right. Well, and that's on a one issue or one vulnerability and one issue basis. We're not talking about a whole list. We don't have the performance concerns there, right?
That's
right. Yeah. So it would make a lot more sense for us to move forward on something like that than it would be to load all of the statuses in the activity icon.
Yes, I think that's why I mentioned like that. For that one, it's easier. A little bit easier than what we are talking about for the closed status or something, because it's already refined, and I think we are going for that. That bug.
My gut was so wrong on this. I thought getting the closed status was going to be much easier than handling this recognition of something deleted. But okay. So it's good to know. Thank you. Let's move on. We have 10 more minutes. We've got one more issue on here. This has been on our agenda before, and there's been a lot of discussion around it in the issue, which is where it should happen. My big question for this is, based on the discussion, if anybody knows that this issue is still needed or not. Jonathan is not clear about the deduplication.
I'm not clear as well. I'm just learning. I'm trying to see more about deduplication or duplication. I'm not sure where it ends.
Okay.
So my understanding is that the deduplication is only within a scanner. I don't believe that we deduplicate on different scanners pointing to the same vulnerability. I don't think we do. I don't think we have that.
Have you read this giant discussion yet, Jonathan?
I have, and I'm still I'm still not clear on exactly what is going on with the deduplication. So
we have another bug that came up around, I think it's related, Matt, the stuff that came up yesterday with a customer who was upset that I'd originally thought was a front-end bug, and it has to do with the pipeline dismissals and this duplication question. And I'm wondering if this deserves its own discussion. Like if it's something that we're not going to handle here in 10 minutes with this audience, or if, having Tiago and Mehmet from, the database side and all of that on the call would be necessary to really get to the bottom of this.
Putting my comment in there now on the actual discussion. I don't think we're going to figure this out in this setting, no.
Now, my hope is that you'd be like, no, this doesn't happen anymore. I tried to reproduce it and it's totally fine now because we've done X, Y, and Z. But it sounds like that's not the case. So
I feel like this is still an issue where it's closed, like it resolves on one issue, but the other one is still going if it's a different scanner. And I believe that was the issue, is that there's two different scanners reporting the same issue or the same vulnerability, and one of them said resolve, the other one said still open. Because that's what Dominic was saying. Because he manually had closed it. So I'm just putting my comment in there. Yeah, so I don't have it resolved right now.
Yeah, this is in 14.0 and it's weighted, but it's still in planning breakdown. So I'm a little confused by that. Something went awry.
I think, I feel like it got.
Andy added a weight because it was a design issue. That gets confusing. I'm going to remove that weight because that's confusing.
Yeah, take that off.
Okay. So how do we want to move forward with this? Because again, this is in 14.0. We're not going to resolve it here. There's some discussion. Do we want to do this asynchronously in the issue? Or do we think we need to schedule a separate discussion around this with a broader audience at all?
I mean, I feel like we've discussed this thing asynchronously.
It's like gone around and around.
Yeah, and I think it is to the point of having a synchronous conversation specifically about this issue. Okay,
I might delegate that one to Tiago, but we'll take that as the action from this discussion regarding this issue. So I think, unless if you guys have anything else or want to talk about this one further, I think that's the end of our agenda.
I don't want to talk about this one anymore.
No, I keep reading it too. I agree with Jonathan. I'm like, does the UUID solve it? Does it not solve it? Is it just the identifier? Is it the location? Like, Jonathan, my original take on this was, in theory, two different scanners could have this happen and have that collision, but just by the nature of how the scanners report things so differently, it's very unlikely. So it seems like possible but not plausible, which is why we're seeing it same scanner. And then, yeah, I don't know how the UUID thing factors in or not.
I mean, yeah, I mean, the original problem was we mark vulnerabilities resolved when we detect duplicate vulnerability. A duplicate vulnerability only refers to the case when two different analyzers detect a finding with the same location and analyzer. And same location and identifier with two different analyzers. So that's the problem on this one.
Yeah, which seems extremely unlikely, but not impossible.
Yeah, I remember one of the I said I didn't want to talk about this one anymore, but I'm still going. I remember the like we talked about, if there are two different scanners, if they're looking at the GitLab scanner versus a third-party scanner, and they see one has this list of vulnerabilities, this one has a different list of vulnerabilities, or if we see one result, that's when they might overlap if they feel like they both bring different things to the table.
Well, and I think one of the other cases is probably more likely for some of the static analysis tools, because I think what I always have to remind myself and get confused is analyzer is the individual engine. You can have multiple analyzers inside of one scanner. So I think in theory, if you ran multiple static analysis analyzers, or even like secret detection, some of the SAST analyzers will also do some form of secret detection.
Yeah,
I think that's where you're going to see those collisions. But yeah, like Dast pointing at something a SAST finding. That's not gonna happen.
All right.
Anyway, I don't know, shrugsies. Like Lindsay said.
Now I'm done talking about it.
I didn't say shrugsies, but I'm going to start to often.
Shrugsies.
Shrugsies.
They need like a little mic drop thing for like these little things.
Oh, all right. Well, thank you guys for your feedback on that, and we will get a dedicated meeting to this topic and hopefully be able to move forward with it in 14.0 because it has been lingering. So, hey, I'm really proud of us. We had a meeting. It was very productive. I enjoy getting to see your faces for a change. So
I know, I'm pretty awesome to look at.
You are. You really are. If you want to pause, I'm gonna stop recording and then I'm gonna keep talking. So thank you all for